Yeah, you just kind of can't let it, you have to almost like let it roll off and focus on what's next. That's so much easier said than done. Like, that's the thing is like, I feel like people get really comfortable and they just start putting themselves like in this comfortable box, and you have to keep forcing yourself to feel uncomfortable, right? Whether that's doing a new role, whether that's trying to do something different.
Hello and welcome to episode 32 of Unfiltered Conversations with Creators. My name is Minges, and today I am pleased to say we are joined by the extremely talented SpiderTiff. Amateur motocross racer, Twitch streamer, official caster for the biggest Call of Duty and Apex Legends tournaments, voice actor, and more. There doesn't seem to be much that SpiderTiff can't do. Tiff shares her story and her unique behind-the-scenes insights into this vast list of talents, but we go further into her personality with a rapid-fire question round and reaction to some interesting comments across all of her socials over on the Patreon page. And before we continue with the conversation, because for the very first time in Unfiltered history, I'd like to take a second to thank the sponsor of this episode, Controller Mods AU. And right now you can use code UNFILTERED at checkout for a discount on any purchase. With a focus on esports and serious gamers, they are the brand I recommend for your custom controller needs. Even as a somewhat casual gamer myself, Controller Mods AU controllers have stood up the best out of all the brands that I've tried before. There's so many features that you can add to your controller that will improve you as a gamer, like custom designs, modifications, color schemes, Hall effect sticks, and my favorite, digital triggers. They also look extremely cool. The team at Controller Mods AU have over 10 years experience, are extremely passionate, and for me, genuinely nice people to deal with. They also ship internationally and offer a 12-month warranty with a commitment to quality and durability. So to level up, don't forget to use discount code UNFILTERED at checkout for your next Controller Mods AU controller. And as always, if you'd like to support the show further and make some more episodes like this happen in the future, be sure to check out our Patreon for bonus content afterwards. But until then, let's get back to the conversation. SpiderTiff, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on the Unfiltered Podcast. We start all these podcasts with a sort of food-related question. So just to ask straight off the bat, would you rather have people over or go to a friend's house to eat?
Oh, I mean, who's picking the menu? Are the friends picking the menu?
If you go somewhere, I'm guessing they would pick the menu.
Yeah, I think I would rather have someone come to my house, and then I would probably do some like recon and figure out what everyone's feeling to eat, and then I would either A, cook, and if I'm not feeling like cooking, I would just go pick up food and just kind of bring it in. Like I most recently just did like a massive taco night, which sounds so basic, and it really was basic, but it was just more about having people over. But I bought like 3 different types of guacamole. I bought 2 different kinds of salsa. Like I spent so much money on basic taco night just so I could try to get something for absolutely everyone. And I was like, oh, that was a bit overkill. I'm not gonna lie, for just like mediocre tacos. No, that sounds very impressive. And you know, the interesting thing about that is because, you know, having people over means entertaining and hosting, and you did a lot of preparation work to do that. So much like the work that you do as a caster and a host, I mean, on top of all the work you do as a content creator, it kind of makes a lot of sense. It does actually.
So I'm sure we're gonna get into all that later. But first, let's start off. What were you like as a kid growing up? What were you into?
Oh my God. When I was a kid, I was so much cooler as a kid than I am now. Let's just put it that way. When I was a kid, my brother and I, we both used to race motocross. So 90% of my childhood was just growing up at motocross tracks across the US. Other than that, I still went to a normal school. I was never homeschooled, which I really wanted to be, but my parents suggested that no, I go to school. So I was also doing cheerleading and motocross. So I was constantly splitting my time throughout that. And I've been to some really cool places for that. But other than that, I was an absolute bookworm, a nerd. I went to summer school for fun. And yeah, that's I shouldn't be proud of that. I don't know if I am. I get made fun of by my family for that all the time, but I was just like bored during the summer. Yeah. As if I didn't have anything else to do. I would take classes like pottery, gym in summer school. I didn't really need to be there.
So you just like keeping busy, basically.
Yeah, that actually tracks. I am never not busy at this point in my life.
So is it right you were actually into competitive amateur motocross for a long time? Like you were almost going professional kind of thing?
Yeah, so the thing about women's motocross is there's not really a lot of avenues to go pro. They did away with the WMX and they kind of talked about bringing it back, and you can kind of stay in that realm. If you race like Loretta Lynn's, I think you can, I don't know what the classes are these days. I don't really keep up with motocross too much, but I know some women did try to race like Supercross with the guys and go that route. That was never like my dream. I always preferred outdoors as opposed to Supercross, so you would never have caught me dead racing Supercross. That's just not happening. But I got to a certain age where I was just like, look, I don't think this is happening for me. I'm pretty short. I'm like 5'1", transitioning to big bikes. So riding, I had a YZ 125 at the time. I was always going to ride 2-strokes. I hated 4-strokes. 4-strokes had just come out at that point in time, maybe a couple years prior to me moving up to big bikes. I did not like the 4-strokes. I stuck to 2-strokes. I was too short, and I was like, this is just not working out for me. So I ended up going to college instead, and I started doing journalism, and yeah, did all that instead. Here I am. Woo, video games.
I didn't realize that height played an important part in motocross.
It can. You have to I had to set my suspension safely as low as I could get it to sit, and then I also had my seat shaved down to try and give me just extra, and I would have to start with starting blocks. But you have to think just picking the bike up in general after you crash, it is getting back on it, starting it, it was just kind of a mess. Short girly didn't really pan out for me.
Was there any kind of injuries or stuff that happened out of that? Because it does get pretty full on.
Yeah, for me, I knew a lot of people that have had some of the craziest injuries. I've seen people, pass away while I was on the starting line. So I've seen some crazy stuff. I have snapped my arm in half. It looked like a staircase, and I've had 2 surgeries on it. I've dislocated, separated my shoulder. I think that's it. Yeah, just those 2. I've been pretty lucky. Yeah.
That's still pretty intense for a lot of people, but in terms of motocross, that probably came off well.
Yeah, to be fair, I broke my arm so bad I did not feel anything. So blessed.
Yes. Okay, fair enough. So you did go into college, you said, and you were looking at journalism. Did you ever end up working in that field, sort of a journalistic field?
Not really. So I learned pretty quick that I didn't like being told what to write about. And that's kind of how all the journalism gen ed classes are. And it just didn't really make sense for me, which in hindsight, I should have stuck it out, because a lot of the people that I originally went to school with, they're anchors on news stations and all over the place. Super successful. Proud of them. I worked in sideline interviewing for action sports and motocross occasionally, very minimally, around 5 times. So not too much. Anytime I would have a school program or something, I would participate in that. But in terms of actively getting paid as a salary to go work in journalism, no, I haven't done that.
No, that's okay. I mean, a lot of people don't go into the same field that they studied in college or university that they, end up doing as their passion. Yeah.
That's true.
It's very rare. So how did you get into gaming? I know you are a gamer these days. Were you into gaming as a kid or growing up?
Yeah. Do you remember the Super Nintendos, the Nintendo?
Of course, that's what I grew up on. Yep, 100%.
Yeah, so my parents kept all of those and their old Sega. So I played Super Mario Brothers when I was growing up with my brother. And that was back in the day where you had to leave everything on because you couldn't turn it off at that point in time. So we would do all of that. So I've kind of started out that realm. Then it kind of transitioned to, I played all the Pokemon games on Game Boy, just kind of growing up here and there. And then one day, maybe I've always had Call of Duty on Xbox. So I played every Call of Duty since Modern Warfare 2. And PC gaming though, I didn't really get into that until maybe 2018. My husband bought me a PC and he was like, well, if you're going to keep gaming, if you ever want to stream or something, maybe we can get that moving for you. So in 2019, I had my first gaming PC. It was Black Ops 4 at that point in time. And then I was playing a lot of Apex Legends because that game had just dropped in February. So I just turned into a grind fest, and I would work my corporate job in the morning, come home, stream and game from 7 to 3 a.m. and then do it all over again.
That's crazy.
It was a bad schedule.
Did you know what streaming was before that got brought up? Did you see any streamers growing up or things like that?
Kind of. I started out when I knew I started getting more information about Twitch and stuff like that. So I started watching a couple streamers, and then surprisingly, my sister-in-law growing up, she used to stream on Justin TV. Like she kind of was a big advocate for me to even start streaming because she had done it back in the day. And I'm pretty sure like she maybe had like on average like 100 or 1,000 viewers back in the day on Justin TV. Like she has screenshots of her doing like so good, had merch. Supposedly like the founder of Justin TV was in her merch. I don't know, man. She's got all kinds of cool pictures. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. So she was like, please do this. It would be so much fun. And I remember one of my first streams, she was like sitting in the back of my stream, like off camera, eating Thai food, super spicy Thai food. That was really good. And she was just cheering me on, even though it was only live for like an hour and I had like 2 viewers.
That's awesome, though. That's awesome because, I mean, a lot of people tend to find that their friends and family in real life don't really know about streaming online and gaming and stuff like that. And they kind of get like, oh, why are people watching you stream when they could go play games? Like, it doesn't make sense to them.
That's true. It is kind of funky. Like, if I have to explain it to literally anyone, they're always like, what do you do? And I'm like, and then they're just like, that's a real thing. And I'm like, yeah, it is. And I'm pretty sure some of the big streamers just casually doing really well, driving really sick cars, having nice houses, living their best life. But that's not me, though. I'm just normal. Like, I'm not cool.
So,
you know?
I know you were, like you said, you were streaming, gaming, and then you were going to your full-time job. You were balancing a lot of things. When did you end up having the means to take the leap to do this full-time?
Oh, yeah. So I took a massive hit regardless of when I was going to leave my corporate job. I was doing really well in my corporate career. Like if I would have stuck that out, I'd be killing it. However, I was like, I don't really feel like sitting behind a computer for 9 hours a day, just kind of being like a workhorse or a cog in the machine. So I think I left in like March of 2022, but that was a really big decision, right? You have to like make sure that A, you're making enough money to survive in general, or B, like do the same kind of lifestyle that you had, or make sacrifices. Like for me, we lived in the city. My apartment was way too expensive, but it was really sick and a nice high rise. We moved out of that, found somewhere way cheaper. I sold my car because I loved my car. It was my baby, but it didn't make sense, right? If I'm not going anywhere in work, I didn't need it. So I sacrificed a couple things and then we moved out of the city. So everything was a bit cheaper. And then we were like, okay, so now that we've cut like that piece of things down, this is how much income I have. This is kind of how we're going to have to make it work. And I still have not been able to replicate the level of success in 1 year that I had in my corporate job, but it doesn't matter because I feel like my lifestyle is way more calm. I'm less stressed, although being your own boss and doing all of those things can be way more stressful than just kind of mindlessly working in a corporate job.
Yeah, there is responsibility that comes with it. It's not just you can game all day and do whatever you want. There is, and I'm sure you know, there's a lot of planning. There's a lot of other things behind the scenes that not just being on the camera comes into play.
Yeah, there really is. Like I've definitely slacked off a bit this year. I've had a lot of different things going on in like my IRL life that have prevented me from being like the best version of myself that I could be this year. And I'm just kind of rolling with the punches. But even with that, I've had the best year of my entire life, like casting. So I can't really say that you kind of can't. I'm not one of those people that can put my everything into like 3 different avenues. And as much as I would love to do that, unless you've built like a superior team around you and you've got everything delegated, something has to give. So for me, streaming in a way took a backseat. Content creation this year took a backseat. And I was just fully focused on like my research and making sure that my casting was on point. And I've, have been invited to more lands. I like it. I want to say I'm proud of myself, but it's very hard for me to say that I'm proud of myself because I always feel like that I can always do more. Yeah.
I mean, you have had a crazy year, but how did you first get into voice? I mean, casting and things like that. What's casting? How do you start that?
Yeah, that's kind of interesting, right? Because I always feel like people ask me, hey, how did you get into that? How did you do this? And quite frankly, for me, I think I was just like chilling in my apartment one day and I was watching Twitch and I saw it was like maybe it was World Series of Warzone or it was the Apex Legends Global Series. You kind of start seeing these things and you're like, wow, okay, I could do this. I spent thousands of hours in these games. I watch these players play at like midnight or whoever's on late at night when I'm like trying to go to sleep. I would love to kind of create storylines and try my hand at doing this. And to get to those levels, seeing that as one thing, trying to get there is a completely different story. But I just got on social media. I started reaching out to production companies. I'm like the FBI when I want something. So basically what I did was I just looked on social media, saw these like tournaments that were happening, and I just started cold DMing and reaching out and being like, hey, you know, I'm so-and-so. I would love to work and commentate on some of these tournaments. However, like I don't have a ton of experience, right? Like I'm super new. I had 8 years of film and TV on camera classes in Atlanta because I had just had a film TV rep. You know, I've lived like 4 different lives. So I did all of that. And I was like, I left my film agent during COVID. So this is right in like 2020. This is right when I was starting commentating, just 1 year after starting streaming. And someone gave me a chance. That ended up being me casting Cold War, Call of Duty multiplayer. And I was like, yeah, I play a lot of Warzone. I don't really play too much multiplayer anymore, but I'm more than happy to cast multiplayer. And like, so I just basically watched a ton of CDL, a ton of all these like things going on to make sure that like you can get all of that moving and just make sure you've got the right flow, the right structure. From there, I went on to do some Warzone events, some college COD League. It just kept spiraling, honestly. It like I looked at like my event list of every event that I've ever worked over the past 4.5 years, and every year it just grows longer and longer. And I bold like events that I think that I just like were bigger or like good milestones for me. And I was like, that's even getting more. And I'm like, I don't even know what's happening.
That's amazing though, when you think about it. But so the first thing that you did in this world was you got in front of the camera. You were in the actual casting. They didn't make you do anything behind the scenes or anything first?
No.
Straight in front of the camera?
No, I just full sent it. I was probably terrible. Sorry, Seymour. I'm pretty sure like Seymour was one of the first people I ever worked with. And then right after that, it was Goj, like Grandmaster Goj.
Yep.
And there is no way I was good. Like you're not going to be good the first time you do something. And if you are, congrats on you. Like I'm so proud of you for being way more talented than I am. But what I did was I took away from that. I was like, okay, you know, we did all right. And they hired me back. So like I couldn't have bombed that bad.
Yeah.
But you always want to be better. So as long as you're constantly improving and challenging yourself to do more, be better, keep going, I don't know.
Out on the other side.
3 eliminations here so far on the Vantage pick, which I highly respect, especially Echo with the sniper's mark. That's what I want to see. Something about a nice quick scope.
The case. Sometimes you'll have really bad casts. You'll get off the mic and you'll be like, you know, that really wasn't my best day. But we're human, and that happens to everyone in everything that you do.
So if you look back on when you first were doing these things, and how would you feel like your preparation and thing has sort of leveled up since then? Did you know how much prep was required before you started the first time?
Well, yeah, kind of. You don't realize there's a lot that goes into it because different productions have different things. Like some productions I'll do, they won't even have a run of show, right? And a run of show is just basically like it outlines by time of what the graphics are going to look like, what our flow is going to look like. Are we going to go from format to prize pool? Is the host going to talk here? Do we have sponsor readouts? Like, and you usually have to meet those time requirements or try to adhere to it the best of their ability. Because if you think about it, if you're having a 4.5 hour, 5 hour broadcast, they're paying production crew, they're paying all of these people to kind of flip the switches. They want to hit that 5 hours.
Yep.
Or if the sponsor's only paying for 5 hours, or maybe you've got front page for 5 hours. So you have to adhere to all the timing. And then sometimes we have the talent lists that come in really, really late. So the players, and then you're like, okay, cool. I've got like, you know, maybe 3 hours on some productions to do a little bit of notes if there's new players that I'm just not familiar with. So it's making sure that I free up like an entire day and a half anytime I have a broadcast. So we only get paid for the hours that we are on air. You don't actually get compensated for the hours of preparation that you put. It's all built into that show portion. So, but I still take like a day and a half minimum to go into a show. Now, if it's a much larger scale show, like you're talking like a massive champs or like a LAN event, like ALGS Champs is in Japan next year, 2025 in January. International scrims are going on right now. The meta is probably locked in for January. So the majority of people should already have been prepping for champs right now based on roster mania, what's going on, who's looking good, who's making changes. Are we still trying to figure out what our strategy is for rotations, our timings, like ironing out all that stuff. That preparation starts now just for a week in Japan.
And you have to stay on top of all that at the same time as the players too, because you have to keep up to date with, I mean, even the background of a lot of the players coming through and their preparation leading up to a tournament. It's not just saying, you know, the overall view. You sort of know a lot about each of the players in a lot of the things that you're casting.
Yeah, I like to bring in like IRL stuff if it's relevant, or like little fun tidbits, or just like things that I see people doing and accomplishing if I can. Like if it's relevant and they're great, I'm not going to go on like some random, who knows? If I'm feeling, all is fair in love and war. Like we're just going crazy at that point. But yeah, like it is so hard because let's use Apex, for example. Think of all the different regions. You have APAC North, APAC South, EMEA, NA, and you have all the different teams in those. So you end up with the people that are going to champs. So if you're studying teams in APAC North, we're going to have a language barrier. So me trying to navigate around that has been really interesting and tough. APAC South, the time zone, anytime they're broadcasting games in APAC South, you know, Australia, you try to set this up with me. Like, I'm like, so like, what time is that? Because I'm probably asleep. Yeah, I have to watch stuff at like 6 a.m. and like regroup on it after. And that's like I got my coffee and then that.
I mean, yeah, because a lot of people will see you the day of an event and think, okay, that's just a couple of hours of work. They don't see all the time that leads up into doing it.
It's true.
So how many hours would you say you would do in preparation for something like huge, like World Series of Warzone or ALGS, finals? Yeah.
So like for LAN, I'll just go ahead and base it off like Germany, right? So Germany, that was split 2 playoffs. Up until Germany, I couldn't do all international scrim watch parties, but I would get on stream and I would, watch scrims and kind of that's, anywhere from 4 to 6 hours a day, right? So that would happen. I would take notes during those. I built out these like massive spreadsheets that delineate between all the different group showings that we're going to get. And I write all the teams out. Like I go pretty granular. And then I'll have moments where I just do that. So when it's the day of the show, I take a run of show and then I write in my iPad, like Google Docs, and I like kind of put bullet points that go along with the run of show. So if I'm on the desk or if I've got points before the games or any of the series that I'm commentating, I usually try to figure out what those are ahead of time. And then I kind of write my notes out based on what I've already done through that. But the run of show portion of it usually probably comes within the week prior. But I don't even want to know how many hours I put into stuff like that. It's a lot. Like World Series of Warzone, we had to do, that was like a year-long process that led up to the LAN. So there's just so much information that was like to be able to come through or storylines at LAN, like the last chance qualifiers, the wild card teams, people that qualified just barely, like, and making sure that their stories are heard. And then you have the team that won 95% of every tournament in Warzone throughout the entire year. And, of course they won LAN too, but still it's trying to make sure that other people's story gets heard because it's genuinely not just about that winning team, even though like they're the face right now. It's like you want to give everyone a story if you can. Yeah.
And I can imagine the amount of detail that you would get. Not all of the sort of informational things that you take in gets used. Like I'm sure there's so many cool talking points that just naturally would never be able to come up, which is kind of like it's probably better to be over prepared than under prepared, but it's also kind of a shame that you can't get to share everything that you know about all the players.
Yeah, it's true. And I think that's really cool about like we just did Warzone Total Fun, not Frenzy. We changed things up yesterday. It was the first Black Ops 6 tournament that I got to cast, and it was just, a 1v1 Nuketown Knockout. It was super fun to cast that. But even just seeing like new names come in, they brought in people from other titles that were playing, but it's just making sure that even if they don't get their stories told at like a World Series of Warzone level, making sure that you still have the capabilities to do so on a smaller scale. And it was a $30,000 tournament. So I'm like not saying that's a smaller scale or anything. It's just there's still ample times to be able to do that. However, even if you have a really cool fact, sometimes it doesn't fit. Sometimes your co-caster, you're like, oh, I really want to say this about said person, but they're still talking. You're like, oh, okay, that's just, I'm going to chuck that one in the bucket. Maybe later I'll get to talk about it, but if not, like it's totally fine, and that happens.
Yeah. So as you are getting to know a lot of these people and their stories and things, is it hard to stay neutral or not show any bias towards, like you were saying, the favorite teams, or like maybe you learn some, dark secrets about somebody or something, some bad information that sort of makes you personally maybe not like them as much as somebody else, but you still have to show them the fairness, like you said. Is that a hard thing to balance?
If I think someone's a piece of shit, I'm not going to say that on cast.
Obviously,
like I'm just really not. Like I'm just going to, I'll commentate over them just like anyone else. In terms of bias, if I've seen you play a lot and I've watched like hours upon hours upon hours of your gameplay, I'm obviously going to be more familiar with that. And I would probably lean into that while I'm commentating just naturally because I'm much more familiar with that. If you're newer in the competitive scene, it will take me just a bit longer to find like more information, more of your play style. But in terms of like people that are my favorite teams and such, I might drop just a little bit of bias, but I saw a post the other day on social media where someone was talking about like, is it okay for commentators to be biased? And I think it is okay, so long as it's not dictating or like tearing away from the story. Like, let's say there's a really cool play going on for the other team, but you're so hyper focused on your favorite person, your favorite team, that you're just like completely ignoring what's actually happening. I think that's when bias is not okay. But if you want to like say something super fun at the top of a show or something, and just be like, yeah, I'm cheering for this. Like, I don't think that's a big deal. It just shows you're like, you have a personality. Like you're a real human, right?
You are a human.
But you also have to like tear them down if they're not doing good too. But not like, I always say tear them down, but I'm like, tear them down, but have like your backup reasons. Like you're not just shitting on people for having a bad day. You're like, no, this was a bad play and here's why.
Yeah.
And like sometimes things don't work out.
And you know they can get better. So it's out of love.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, I mean, you've been, like you said, caster for ALGS, the CODs, Esports, the Challenges, Warzone, everything like that. What would you say is sort of like the biggest thing in your field, if your opinion, that you've been involved in?
Ooh, okay. The biggest thing that I've been involved in, it has to be Apex, or it has to be World Series of Warzone, the Global LAN Finals, or ALGS Champs. Like 100% either of those events. Like they're the pinnacle of both of those esports, and you just can't get anything bigger than that for those two. And it's fun, right? Like it still blows my mind that I've even been on those stages, and I like crave that feeling when you're done. You just have like this decompression of, I just did that and oh my God, I want to do it again. And I have to wait. And it makes me so sad.
How far in advance do you know? I know it's announced at certain times who's involved in the cast and everything, but how far in advance do you know?
For smaller events that go like on a week-to-week basis, typically maybe a week or two out, sometimes a month out. It just really depends. I only have one contracted day next month for an online show as of right now, so pretty open. In terms of like a LAN event, I got hit up like a week in advance for a LAN event just recently, and I was like, that is a lot of travel and a lot of stuff, and I'm already booked to try and make that work for a week out, but maybe 30 days. What do we got going on here? All right, there's a dog somewhere. There she is.
She can join in.
She's right there.
What's her name?
Her name is Storm.
Hey, Storm.
She's a wheel German Shepherd, little 90 pounds, thick girl.
Solid. Yeah. So, like, when it comes to, like right now, we just had little dog wandering, little something happened that's off script, off topic. When something happens live to you at an event, say you're on LAN, and you have to kill some time, you have to extend things, like maybe there's some technical difficulties. How often does that happen, and does that freak you out?
Oh, it's a fun time. I told you anything can happen. Anything can go rogue. This is where that preparation, this is where all of that goes down. I think we had some technical difficulties on a couple of the LANs that I've been a part of where you have to fill for anywhere from like 10 to 40 minutes. And sometimes we'll kick it back to the desk and they'll handle like the majority of it. But if they're not there, it's just you and your co-caster just straight ripping through random stuff. And luckily in Apex, the guy that I cast with, Dia, he's so knowledgeable. Like you could ask him anything and he'll write you basically a thesis statement. And for Apex, I've been more play-by-play. I started out as color commentary, so it's really interesting to see our dynamic kind of grow because I'm still trying to be a better play-by-play caster and just keep improving. But yeah, he's super damn smart. So I will ask him anything and he will just go on like a 20-minute, I don't know where we're going, we're on a journey. And then I'll just take it and I'll say something completely random. But that is it's scary, but I'm so used to it now that I'm like, don't read chat. People are going to be screaming. There's nothing you can do about it. You just got to roll with it. And honestly, a good fill. Like sometimes you just turn it into a little podcast segment about the title. So that's it.
The first time it happened, I can imagine it might have like sort of freaked you out a little bit, but I was doing streaming and things like that where you have to fill your own time, your own air. Did that sort of prepare you for that sort of world?
I think so. You can't just be like, yo, chat, how we doing?
Yeah.
Unless it's like that type of show. But you kind of are used to filling time and pacing it out and kind of talking yourself through it. But when you're filling, usually there's not a game going on. There's really not information to pull from. So you pull from like what you've seen. You start setting up even more storylines of what's about to come. And you just really have to try to bring knowledge and information because people are already going to be a little irritated that things are delayed. You know, production is doing the best that they can to make sure that they're getting everything back on track. So sometimes you won't even have your producer in your ear being like, okay, ETA, we've got this. Or they'll be like, hey, maybe we think we've got 5 minutes until the fix. This is what we're going to do. Or sometimes it takes 30 minutes. They'll be like, oh my God, we got to replace an entire PC on land.
Wow.
That can be, or we'll have like a cable blow. And I don't know, people will be like, oh my God, a cable. And I'm like, yo, have you ever seen the back of like the village behind the stage at a LAN event? There are thousands of cables going every which way. Like it's just, I don't envy that. Like a production crew, everyone behind the scenes, the stuff they do, it is so like valuable that I don't even... No, like they are the hardest workers, bro. They are there before we get there. They are there after we leave. I don't even know if they sleep. It's wild.
Do you think doing all this sort of improved your game as a content creator on your own? Like you've done a lot of work in front of the camera, in front of, you know, countless thousands of people. Going back to doing your own streams, your own gaming, do you feel more comfortable? Did it feel easier?
I feel comfortable, but I wouldn't say it improved my content because, like I said, I've been slacking on the content. Could I do more? Yes, 100%. But I do feel more confident in the camera. I do feel like okay with all of that. I feel like I could take what I've done and everything and apply it to whatever else. But it also has to circle back to all that on-camera film, TV stuff that I've done. It's like just making genuine connections and just trying to kind of be yourself and comfortable on camera, which I think for a lot of people can be difficult, but some people just don't even care. They don't even think about it. They're just like, oh yeah, good. The camera's there. Great. We're going to keep chilling. We get to talk about video games. We're having a good time. And that's really kind of all that matters, but we're just trying to, have fun, tell stories about the players and just hype them up the best we can.
Yeah. And it's really good. I mean, you've come like a long way to be professional in all this stuff. Is it hard to sometimes cast with somebody that you might not get along with off camera? Does that come into play at all, or do you pretty much get along with everyone you've worked with?
I think for the most part, I get along with everyone that I've worked with. I've been pretty lucky where I commentate with a few of the same people, and like the entire Warzone team is pretty great. Same with Apex. I don't think I've had really any issues. I will say the biggest issue that I've had, which I'm sure people have felt the same way about me at points in time when I was just starting out, is if you get someone that's like newer that maybe doesn't know the video game or like doesn't know anything, and you're just like, okay. And then you just kind of start yapping and you just keep yapping and you're like, that ship has sailed, we're rolling with it. And then you just kind of like, all right, cool. That was a newer person. That was probably me right off the rip. That's totally fine. And you just try to help them the best of their capabilities. They ask like, hey, I'd love some advice. You give it to them, right? Like it'd be like, if they've asked for it, you're not like trying to like,
not tearing them down.
Just tear them down. Like you're just like, oh, hey, like I saw you did this. Here's where I think you did really well. I think you could kind of add on here. But like even me giving advice feels so weird because I still feel like I could get advice. Like I feel like I'm always learning and trying to improve. So it's just weird that I would be qualified to give someone advice.
I mean, you've been doing this for a long time, a lot more than a lot of other people.
It shocks me though. Like it shocks me. I still feel like a little baby in this space.
Does it feel real a lot of the time? I know you said when an event's over, you sort of get that rush, that feeling like you've done something really good. Does it feel real? Kind of. Like,
I don't think it feels real until you're in a stadium and there's all these people around you. And every time you go back and you get more well known in that scene, like you have people that show up and like they'll put your name on a sign and you're like, oh my God, like I know we're all here for the players, but that is crazy to see. Like, I had to sign stuff for people in Germany, and like, I was just like, dang, this is so wild. Cool. Like, I know it does. That's the part that like doesn't feel real. I'm just like, these are my people. Like, I like these people. I like the kind people.
I can imagine it would feel different in front of a crowd of people, like you said, at a LAN, at a big event, compared to when you're doing things sort of remotely. Is there one you prefer?
Oh, I love being in person. Like, I love LAN. Like, I cannot get enough of doing that in person. Like, it is wild. It's a workout. I burn like 3,500 calories a day. Don't eat, don't sleep. Live your best life. Like, it is just, there is nothing that I have found. It used to be this way with motocross, right? It's like a motocross race, like the adrenaline that you get from that, there's just nothing that you can do to like replicate that feeling. It is the same way with casting on a LAN. There is just, I don't know how to replicate that for me. Like, I don't often feel joy in my life, but like that would be my joy.
Nice.
That was dark, but yeah.
No, that's
slightly dark, but
that's a little bit dark. No, it's okay though. I understand what you mean, because it is sort of like you're trying to replicate that thing over and over again. And I'm sure that the base level gets higher and higher as you've gone on. Like, probably the first time you did it felt amazing, but then as you go, you maybe not get numb to it, but it's sort of like your tolerance, and you need that hit needs to be bigger.
Yeah, but you don't, like, that's the thing is, like, I feel like people get really comfortable and they just start putting themselves like in this comfortable box, and you have to keep forcing yourself to feel uncomfortable, right? Whether that's doing a new role, whether that's trying to do something different. Like, in Germany, I don't do too much stage hosting or going out in the crowd and interviewing that I get the opportunity to do. I did some interviews out in the crowd, and that was wild. And to be able to do that, different, right? Like, definitely different. So I was like, this is crazy. Like, I'm out here, I'm tasked with finding people, coming up with interview questions on the fly, and just full sending. And it's live, right? Anything go wrong, you don't know what the people across from you were gonna say. True. Like, one guy was like, he's like, hey, like, what should I know? It's like, I don't know, don't cuss, don't say the F word. I don't know, just hope it goes well. What does he do? Drops the freaking F-bomb. Oh, no. Like 2 seconds later, freezes up, and I was like, and back to you guys.
From Germany, a homeland. Let's go. How about you?
I'm Niels. I'm from Germany as well, just a few meters out, actually. So I couldn't resist when they asked us if we want to go to Mannheim. If they didn't want to ask us, but if when, oh, fucking shit.
Hey, it's all good.
It's like, we just got a whole stadium of that. But it's so fun. Like, it's funny because no one is like going to be like, you're not actually getting in trouble for that. But I just thought it was so wild. I was like, maybe I shouldn't have said anything, because I feel like I planted the seed for you. I was the one that brought your downfall there.
He wasn't even thinking about that word till you said it.
Nope. Yeah, I said it. I was like, yep, there it went.
So you did mention that you did some voice acting and things like that. I know you've been in some commercials for a video game as well. Was that something that you planned on doing? I mean, you did journalism when you were in college. Did you plan on going into acting and things like that?
No, well, okay. When I was a kid, I always wanted to be an actress. I would like beg my mom. Like, I didn't want to race motocross. I wanted to be on TV. I wanted to be in film. I always wanted to do that. Like, I told you, I was a bookworm. So bringing my favorite books and stories to life, that was what I wanted to do. However, that just didn't really pan out for me. I was in the Midwest. There really wasn't a bunch going on out there. My parents were much more happy to take me to a motocross track and not that stuff. So when I moved to Atlanta, the film industry is in Atlanta, and I was like, oh yeah, this is super cool. So I started taking acting classes while streaming, while working
keeping busy.
Yeah, see, I'm a busy person. I like it. I think I got a little burnout this year, so that makes a lot of sense. But with voice acting, that's just another pillar that it was there, and like I've kind of taken voiceover classes over the years, and I just never like fully pursued it because film didn't really pan out too well for me. Like, I would go on all these auditions. I never really booked anything big. I had like auditioned for like Disney movies and like Marvel shows, because that stuff was filming in Atlanta at the time, and it was really cool. And I was like, I wish I would have booked something to be like, yeah, this was my time, I can show for it. No, I got nothing. But voice acting, I was like, oh my God, like, anime. Like, I could easily well, not easily. I shouldn't say easily because it's really hard to get into it, right? You could do anything. You could do commercials. You can do radio spots. You can do literally mocap for video games. But a lot of that's done in LA. But it all kind of leads to being in these video games and seeing people do it. And it's one of those moments I was like, I'm seeing people do this. It's out there. I want to do it. And so I started taking it maybe a bit more serious in the past year and a half. And I was doing a lot of private coaching. I was doing classes. I did animation classes. I've done workshops. I've done just all this kind of stuff. And I just finally got my character demo maybe like 2 months ago done. I just finished my commercial demo maybe last week. Mm-hmm. I submitted to agents yesterday, 2 days ago maybe.
It's a long process.
It has, and it's really expensive too. Like if you want to do it right, yes, you can do it. You can do it cheaper, 100%. But like I shelled out the cash to do like professional quality demos because I was like, I really want to make sure that when I do this demo is going to last me for a couple of years. I want to put the quality behind it. I want it to stand out and be on par with the people that are booking these gigs and getting these agents and doing these things. And I was like, I'm not going to settle for less. So I put a lot of effort into it, spaced out my time. I did get an agency that was like, hey, we like you. I was like, thank God.
That helps.
Thank God someone likes me.
Yeah.
So that's cool. I'm not signed yet. Maybe we'll see something soon. But in voiceover, there are different regions. So you can get like a Southeast agent. You can get a New York agent. You can get an LA agent, maybe a Texas agent. Most Texas agents, it seems like a lot of them are like, oh, we only want to rep people here in Texas, and Crunchyroll's in Texas. So that's kind of cool. I don't know. I just start looking into stuff.
So is it up? I mean, you said potentially with an agency. Are you reaching out to people yourself, or are you sort of trying to get an agency that will do that on your behalf?
Yeah, so with that, you kind of pull together your submission. So for me, I've got my resume, I've got my demo reels, I've got my website, headshots. I also have my on-camera or my on-air talent, my casting, hosting reel. I do have an on-camera like film TV reel, but that I'm not submitting any of that stuff. And you have like websites behind the scenes, like Actors Access and stuff like that sometimes they'll want. So you just kind of pull everything together and you just kind of cold submit. Like some places it'll be like, we don't accept submissions, no soliciting. You must have a referral, and whether that's referrals from like a casting director and another agent, like those usually your bigger agents are harder to get with. Sometimes like they'll find you. They'll just find you. They'll be like, hey, we saw you on this, or we saw you had an episode of, I don't know, Kaiju number 8. And they'll be like, oh, who's your rep and how'd you get that? And we do have rep in LA. We would love to kind of represent you in that. So it just takes time, working hard, a little bit of luck, a lot of luck, actually. It's like hard work plus luck equals like, please yes. Work out. But I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to cast. I'm trying to do those things. I'm trying to work. It
is a lot of work that goes into it behind the scenes. Like no one will know how much it's taken, but they'll see your first gig. So they'll see, and they won't know how much has gone into getting that first gig, and how much rejection comes with it as well. I'm sure there's a lot of times where you either get turned down or simply just ignored. How do you balance dealing all those feelings and emotions?
Well, I mean, it is hard. Film. All of the rejections really hurt. I'm not going to lie. There was a portion of the time where I dyed my hair brown because I thought that would help. I literally, like, you'll be like, what can I change about myself physically that will get me that? Plot twist, that doesn't work. I mean, it might. I don't know. But it's not going to work for me. You have to be good on the inside. So I stepped away from that. And that's like kind of when I started getting into commentating and stuff. And a lot of the rejection that I've got with commentating is... it turns out like, here, we'll use today, for example, this isn't like a rejection. Don't get me wrong. I just didn't get a job. I got a veil checked, didn't get the job. My friends got the job. I'm happy for my friends. I'm like, I don't care. I know so many good people and there's enough work to go around that I'm just like, cool, I didn't get this one. I'm sure I'll get another one. I'm totally chilling. Would it have been really sick to do that gig? 100%. The ones that hurt the worst, I think, were like if I was to... Let's just say I'm just not doing any more Apex lands. I'm not going to put that in the world because I really like Apex and I don't want that to happen to me. But like if something happened and I was just cut from the roster, I think that would that would suck. Like, I haven't had something like that happen to me, but I think that's like a blow that I would just be like, yeah, that hurts real bad. I'm going to go cry, probably regain in like 12 hours and just go eat some toasted raviolis. I'll have to go back to the Midwest for that one. But yeah, you just kind of can't let it, you have to almost like let it roll off and focus on what's next. That's so much easier said than done, but it's never really, it's not personal most of the time, right? Because clients can want different things. You could be the greatest person, but still like they choose someone else because that vibe that you have might not be what they're looking for this particular show, but they might call you in on the next one. So that's kind of the way I'm looking at it, because even in voiceover, all of those things, you could have a fantastic voice, but it just may not, this might be just a little bit better. And it's hard to say if it's even better. It just maybe fits more. And it's all so subjective based on the person that is casting it versus like anything else. So I don't think you're like, I don't know. It's hard. You just got to keep going. You
got to keep going. It's hard to take it. It's hard to not take it personal is what I'm saying, because I mean, I'm not trying to rub it in, but you are the product. So, I mean, it's not like you're selling something else. You're selling yourself to these people. So I mean, me personally trying to reach out to people for podcasts and, you know, getting ignored a lot of the time is obviously, you think to yourself, that's going to happen. Maybe they just don't see it. Maybe it goes to spam, maybe all these things, but also there's a side of you that will sometimes take it personal. Like, what am I doing wrong? Am I coming off the wrong way? And it's sort of like when it's yourself, like you're the on-air talent yourself. I'm sure you take a lot of that on board to try and improve yourself, but also try to, do you separate the two from your personal life to the on-screen sort of life? Does it impact your personal life?
Oh, it can. I will literally go rant for like 30 minutes until my husband's like, Tiffany, like, shut the fuck up. Like, you'll book something else. It's fine. And I'm like, you're right. 5 seconds later, yeah, but I really thought this, like, and he's like, nah, dude, just like go. Like, no, do anything else. And so I just try really hard to not think about it. Like, that is just the end all be all. It's like, my life is not going to be ending over this. Like, it's really not. It's going to keep going. Something else will happen for me. It'll be totally fine. Like, I cannot spend my time worrying about it, but sure. Like, I could always be better. I can always work on improving. If I feel like I'm starting to slip and I'm just not really doing that well, then I just have to have that. I'm usually my own worst critic. So even if I don't get a gig, like, the stuff that I can say to myself is way worse than anyone else could ever say to me. So I just sit there and I'm like, all right, what do I want to change? Like, what do I want to work on? And then I will start like kind of working, brainstorming and trying to like just kind of implement new things in my casting style or whatever it is. And if it doesn't work, hey, it doesn't work. Cool. Throw that one out and try something different, or just work on like setting little goals for myself in casts. And I try not to worry about whether or not I get hired again. And because, you know, if you treat every broadcast like it's your last, because it might be, that's all you can do.
Yeah. So how much would you say the percentage of your time, or like you are full time? So would you say the streaming at the start was obviously the most, and then you got into casting? Is that the main focus?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely like slower right now in terms of my year. But this year on average, I was doing like 1 to 2 shows a week. And it was a busy time. And so I was just trying to fill my time with streaming if I could to kind of go around that. But streaming, like all that stuff took a hit. Casting has, lo and behold, like been the biggest thing this year.
Yeah, because I mean, I've scrolled through a lot of your socials, the YouTube and everything. You are pretty good I was going to give you a compliment. You are pretty good with uploading stuff. Obviously, but there's a lot of things that will take your attention away from that. But I mean, you did do all the right things. You were uploading your shorts, reels, long form videos, all that stuff to do to improve yourself as a streamer and build all that up. Is that something you still will go back to doing, or do you is that on the back burner now?
It's on the back burner right now, but I'm just like waiting. I have so many clips that I need to edit to just like kind of bring it back. I've got the stockpile and I could totally revamp it. This year, while I was focusing on a lot of casting stuff, I had a lot of thyroid issues going on. So like my energy just wasn't there. So like I was doing everything that I could just to get through some casts some days. So, and I didn't really want people to kind of see that or know that, because then you're kind of like, okay, cool. Like if I publicly state that, then maybe I don't get brought back, right? But it like really wasn't that bad. We got my medication all ironed out. Stuff is going good. We're on the up and up, and I'm good with that, right? But yeah, like I was literally this year, I could not split myself out on everything. Because even in my IRL life, I try to go to the gym 5 to 6 days a week. I try to be healthier. I try to like cook my own meals, not eat fast food, not eat soda. So trying to balance all of that plus content creation plus streaming, it's like a full job. Like I wake up 6 a.m., go to the gym, take care of this thing back here. Sometimes I'll walk her, but if not, we're playing Frisbee in the backyard. And then casting, streaming, whatever I've got for the day. I'll block out a whole day for casting. If not, then if it's streaming, I'll stream for maybe 4.5, 5 hours. Try to pull some clips from that. If I don't get them edited that day, it has to be edited in the morning before gym. Usually, like when I was uploading, if I was doing YouTube stuff, I would have to request like my YouTube thumbnail like 2 days in advance, kind of prep that out, record it, edit it, and then kind of get that uploaded, which, you know, if I could figure out a way to get all that back into my schedule, because right now my brain's just like, all right, now, like, where am I going to put a VO booth? Where am I going to do my auditions? Like making sure I've got all of that ironed out. Because when I do sign for an agent, like, I mean, I have everything to like record good quality and like do all that stuff, but I'm like, all right, gotta add that in there.
That's another thing to add to the file. Yep.
Yeah.
So,
I'll get it done.
Did you do your own editing and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for the majority of it, like, yeah, I still do. Well, I have like presets for shorts that I do in Premiere Pro. So you can like just drag clips and it'll automatically like kind of crop it down. Titles, I've tried to streamline that as much as possible if I start doing like kind of captions and stuff, but it doesn't take me that long. And then if I ever have questions, I just like YouTube stuff, or I call my husband and I'm like, hey, I don't know how to do this. Like, can you help me with this? Or like, I don't think I'm consistent enough to work with someone that's like an actual editor, but if I had something that was like complicated enough, I would be like, yo, help me. Like, I wish I could be consistent again, but my casting, that's the thing. Freelancing, you never know what your next week's schedule is going to look like. I don't even know if I'm working on something tomorrow. I totally could. I could get hit up last minute and I'd be like, yeah, put me in, coach. Let's do it. So I'm like, yeah.
you sort of need to keep yourself flexible too, because you can't dedicate, I'm going to stream 3-4 times a week, 8 hours a day, but you know, something comes up, you need to drop that, then, you know, that goes out the window. So, and
the stream goes first. And I feel so bad for my community because I love them so much. And that's hard. Like, cause once you kind of put that on the back burner, then people start showing up less and less and less cause you're not there. And you're like, dang, man, like I'm doing this to you guys and I'm sorry. Like, so tonight, like I'm streaming cause Warzone, the integration just dropped for season 1. I was like, all right, I'll play tonight, which is very uncharacteristic of me. I usually am a morning girly. I do not stream. I am like in bed at like 9:30 p.m. because I get up so early. And I'm like,
me too.
It's happening. We're going late night.
I was going to ask you, did that make an impact on your socials, your streams themselves when you started casting? Was there? I mean, obviously there were some people who I'm sure were hyped and were amazed and would talk about it when they would come into your stream. Is there some that went the other way?
Like negative?
Like negative, yeah.
Yeah. Like people try to say negative stuff all the time. Honestly, I don't care. Like they can say negative whatever they want. I'm like, you want to come do this, my guy? Like have at it. I fully am behind you trying to do this. But I mean, some people are just negative at their like core. Like they're just unhappy about everything. Like if you look at their social media, it's like just like negative. It's like not even personal at this point. They just enjoy being negative. So I'm like, why am I going to let this person that only says negative stuff affect me, who I don't know? Like, I'm sure that at some point someone's going to say something bad enough that'll hit me and I'll just be really annoyed by it. But 90% of it, I'm just like, you're an idiot. And if that's what you think, you're crazy. And I'm going to go prove you wrong and work 10 times harder or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, it is the internet. You do need a thick skin if you're going to put yourself out there on the internet because anything can happen. So in terms of what's coming for the future, I mean, I know you don't plan too far ahead because, it's sort of up in the air a lot of the time, but do you have any goals or anything that you would like to reach in the next 12 months?
I want to work a Red Bull event. I do. They just had a Red Bull Apex event. I was not a part of it. That's okay. Not worried about that. You don't get a part about a very event. I didn't even know that was going to happen. But they look so damn fun, and I want to be a part of it. So I want to do a Red Bull event. I want to get nominated for an award. I know it's silly, but I would like to. I would like to get nominated for an Esports award or something of that caliber. I don't know. So that one's a little. Well, I was like, what do they call that? Like superficial? Whatever.
That's okay.
I don't care.
Is that
I want to be nominated.
That's kind of like a reward for yourself and your hard work, just the acknowledgement that you've put in the work to be up there.
I don't know if that'll be 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever. We'll figure it out. And I just want to make myself happy with my cast. Like I already kind of do that, but I just want to go in and just be like, yeah, I just slaughtered that. Like that was great. Like I enjoyed that so much. And like, I want to do more of that. I don't think I have too high hope. Oh, I want to, in terms of voiceover, I want to be on solo leveling in Kaiju number 8. Like, I want to do that.
We can make
I don't
it
know
happen.
how.
Manifest
I'm going to make it happen.
Make it happen. Cold calls,
Yeah.
cold emails if you have to.
I don't even know who to reach out to, but I'll figure it out. I'll be like, I'm going to put my voice in there somewhere.
Is this someone that you've gone to for like help and guidance in that? I mean, not just in that kind of world, but like just in general in what you've done so far, or have you pretty much figured it out?
For casting or like voice?
Everything. Do you figure it out as you go, or?
I will say I have like a group of people in commentating that like we'll all kind of like if we have questions or if we have something going on or if we need some advice for something, we'll kind of like ping pong it back off each other. And for the most part, that group is pretty chill and really cares about success for like everyone in that group. So that's kind of nice. For voice, that's a little different. I can like ask questions to the people that I'm like coaching with at that point in time, but I don't really have someone that it's like that I feel comfortable with, like kind of asking like granular details just yet. I don't think I've got like actually those relationships yet, but we're working on that. And I feel like just like the more networking I do, the more that I'm like learning and growing and working in that space, like that'll just come naturally. Yeah,
I'm sure it will. And like I said, you've come a long way and you really putting yourself out there and doing a really good job in improving your craft as you go. So I think you're doing a lot of really, really good things. SpiderTiff, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast. Big fan of what you do, and I hope to continue to see you out there and, see you hitting those goals and getting on those shows and doing all the great things.
Heck yeah, I got it. Thank you, homie. That's kind.